Chapter 83, Salvador Dalí. As for Saturday and Sunday, Sam would feel like he had no drive to do anything but sit and listen to the radio, flicking from program to program, trying to find something that would get his attention. And when something would catch his ear, he'd listen from beginning to end and then forget everything he had just heard the very next minute. Day after day, week after week, month after month, it went on like this. Life had become like seconds ticking away on a grandfather clock as his world grew slower and slower, as he began to wonder to what end. At the time before it started, I had gone to the Museum of Modern Art. Without Jane, although I felt like I was going to hang myself hearing her mope about her stupid family again. And it was that one famous painting of Dalí's that struck me funny, struck me in all peculiar with interest. That one with the clocks looking like sunny side-up eggs, all soft and just tired looking. Something struck me funny about that piece as the piece started to have an effect on me in a strange way. Tell you the truth, I don't like his work. That surrealistic crap just feels like he's trying to pull one over on me, making me see more into it than there really is. Honestly, I see it no different from a con job. Art, that is. When you're trying to hustle money out of some sucker, some sap, some pushover that starts to really buy into the bull you're shelling. And how, you might ask, wondering how the con is supposed to work? Well, it's pretty simple since all cons are the same. The art of a con job is all the same, works the same, all having to do with confusing some poor sap into thinking what they're buying into has any real value. That their work is a work of genius, when I'm pretty sure the artist himself might not even know what he's got there, know a damn thing about what he's created. He doesn't know, he's not even sure if it's really any good or not. But he needs dough like the rest of us do, needs money to live, so he'll sell his crap and blow it up into it being something truly grand, and even when it isn't, just for the clams. Someone once said that all art is worthless, and I believe in that. I do. Most of it is crap, if you ask me. Some is pretty to look at, I won't deny that, but not worth all the money and attention that's put into hanging them in some giant building like a museum having a better housing accommodations than some poor tramp on the street would have. Personally, if you gave me $1 million, I still wouldn't spend a dime on any of it, especially that one Mona Lisa. That's just some so-so looking broad half smiling at me and giving me a shrug. I mean, not a dime. But I guess a sucker is born every minute, buying into that crud. And the only thing that would get me to buy it is so I could sell it for much, much more dough to the suckers that do put value in all this art stuff. As for Dalí, as for his work, especially, I can't stand. I really can't. I don't like any of his work. There's so many confusing things going on in there, so much left to be interpreted. So much guesswork trying to interpret the lousy symbolism, soft melted clocks, hung, dreamy faces, scary-looking long-legged elephants walking all over the place. And Jesus is somewhere there too, also trying to make sense out of what the hell is going on. That's right, that's what's got Dalí so much attention. His work is so surreal and out there and far-fetched and full of itself. It can even confuse Jesus Christ and its stupid, lousy symbolism, interpretations of what's going on. Pull one over his eyes. Simply put, Sam hated what he was seeing simply because he didn't get it. This art crap's a bunch of malarkey. And then, all of a sudden, as Sam continued staring into that one piece and then read the name of it, The Persistence of Memory. All right, whatever. It was then, it hit him, and Sam got it. What the? It's all so meaningless. Thought Sam then. Everything, it's all empty and hollow and meaningless. And it was at that very second The grandfather clock in Sam stopped ticking. It became stuck at this very second, stuck at this very moment. Stuck on this image of Dalí's, of clocks hung all around. And then a memory from childhood began to repeat over and over again in his mind. A memory of himself going around and around on a carousel. And at that second, a horror set in. That terrified Sam to his foundation. Almost had him start with the convulsion business himself. That of his father's. As he found his jaw opening and shutting violently, trying to escape the feeling, "Oh God, help me," thought Sam as he then looked at Dalí's work. Again, it felt like tearing it down, ripping it up into shreds. It's also meaningless. It's a parade of meaninglessness, orchestrated all around and, screamed Sam as he alerted a few patrons around him. "Excuse me, are you all right?" asked the security guard at the museum that walked up to him. Sam then just gawked at him, then around, then felt keen to straight up walk out of the joint. It was then that Sam began to take on another phase in his life that really began to trouble him. Days later, Sam realized he was beginning to lose sleep. He was now suffering from insomnia. And what really troubled him about all this was how partial he had grown to those hours when he didn't have to spend every last waking second feeling so restless and directionless, feeling a multitude of emotions going around and around inside of him, all so meaninglessly, around and around almost to no end. He enjoyed going to sleep and feeling his mind simply shut off and not have to spend another moment feeling all that. And as time went on and on, he found himself sleeping less and less. He lay there in his bed and stared at the ceiling, and then grew enraged to see the morning come. Day after day, week after week, this was the bullshit he had to now put up with. One week, Sam was hardly able to get a wink of sleep the entire time. Going almost 7 agonizing, drowsy, painstaking days straight of being fully alert and infuriated by his predicament. He lied there and tried to force his mind to just shut off, but the harder he tried, the more awake he'd feel, and the less like he then felt he could manage to make it happen. After that week, Sam decided to tell Jane what was going on in his life, to see if he could get some type of sympathy or care from the goody two-shoes Puritan. But all she did then was complain about her mother. Now she would use alcohol as an excuse for inducing sleep, since she also supposedly suffered from insomnia. "Your mother drinks booze to knock herself out?" Sam had asked.
"Well, that's been one of her excuses. But Sam, don't try that now. I've heard that can create some very nasty side effects,"
Jane had responded. Of course, the second Sam had heard that, after he dropped Jane off, he then went immediately to the liquor store to buy himself some booze. First night, he drank up a quarter of a bottle of vodka and found himself drifting off to sleep within the hour. It felt good. He continued doing this for a week straight, but then realized he needed to up the ante if he wanted to continue having the same effect. After the end of the second week, he found himself drinking half a bottle a day to keep up. This was beginning to have an ugly effect on him as he realized, trying not to think about the fact that Jane had told him so. He wasn't really able to sleep. For he was simply knocking himself out. And for those hours he was out, he didn't feel like he was getting that rejuvenating feeling of how normal sleep felt. One day, Sam tried to simply fall asleep on his own, and he found himself spending the entire night just as widely awake as ever. He had to continue. By the end of the third week, it was 2/3 of a bottle before he could pass out. And after a month of doing this, Sam was drinking an entire bottle of whiskey and wanting more. By the time the month and a half had passed, Sam was drinking almost 2 bottles a night. And once again, he wasn't able to sleep. The alcohol was now making him nauseatingly sick to his stomach as he began having convulsions of his own, trying to force it down after spending an entire night throwing up while at the same time trying to force more vodka back in. He keeled over, threw up all over the floor, and was out. When he came to, he found himself in the hospital. His father had finally caught on to what he was doing, but said nothing. Didn't bust his chops at all over the matter as he drove him home the next day. Damn robot. Sam was still living with his father, and he had tried to hide these activities as long as he could. Luckily, Sam wasn't one of those stupid loud drunks. That's how he had managed to hide it so well. He never liked those stupid loud drunkard types, and he always felt he had total control over himself, even in the pits of inebriation. After returning home, he gave up the booze, knowing it wasn't going to work anymore, and then spent an entire 3.5 weeks straight without sleep. Those 3.5 weeks were some of the worst days in his life, as Samuel Francis Dorian felt like he was on the verge of losing his mind completely. He was like that Dalí painting. Ah, crud. That damn painting, the persistence of memory, and the hidden meaning that Sam had discovered within it that began to cause all this. All the time in the world now felt stuck within him as he lay there wide awake, having to deal with the same thoughts and emotions again and again and again and again. Spinning and spinning faster and faster. And now Sam felt his mind rushing what felt like 1,000,000,000,000 light years a second, looping around and around, and terrified the crap out of him as those thoughts and emotions also grew furious of repeating themselves and started growing demonic. What is this? What is going on? What are these things? It was like a carousel in his mind, and Dorian hated carousels, absolutely hated them, ever since he was a kid. Ever since his father had taken him to Coney Island as a child and had made him ride one, as all the other children laughed and cheered. Riding around and around and around, Sam felt dizzy and terrified as he got his first glimpse into what insanity might be like. Spinning and spinning in no direction, as the terror inside grew deeper and deeper. Sam, as a child then, had started screaming at the top of his lungs as they had to stop the carousel and nearly crowbar the child off the porcelain horse. And even though a year on out, the child had had night terrors, having just thought about that one ride. Night terrors of experiencing that one moment again and again. And now, again, as an adult, experiencing it all over, as everything around him started taking on the nature of Dalí's work. The world looks different to my eyes now. It looks different. Vacant, I guess would be the word. I look at objects around me and they're there, but not there. They're hollow. The world itself terrifies me now. And you know why? Because it's round. Yes, I look at the world, and it being round now terrifies me. Can you believe this crap? Just the idea of being on a rock, spinning out of control, hurling through space, going around and around the giant ball of fire terrifies me. And I don't even get the sense of what up and down is anymore. This is a weird one, but I feel like I need to know which way truly is up and which way truly is down. Like right and wrong, there has to be a sense of it. There has to be. And as simple as it might seem to answer, it's not, because the earth is turning. I'm practically standing upside down from where I was a mere 12 hours ago. I've moved now, and I need to know positioning, but I don't. Because up isn't really up and down isn't really down. And the skies scare me for how vast they are, so much void and vacant, going on. And which way is up? Which way is right? And which way is wrong? I don't want to be upside down. Fuck. If I was in Antarctica, I'd lose my mind completely. I don't understand why, but I don't want to be standing straight in the wrong direction. It's not supposed to be that way. And if that crazy nonsense isn't enough, everyone around me terrifies me too. Like those damn Dalí works, everything now has some sort of symbolism behind it. And symbolism into things I don't fucking understand. I can't just look at a person and see them anymore. I see objects inside of them, supposedly representing things I don't understand. I look at their eyes and I don't see windows into a man's soul, but I don't know how to explain it. Like yolks of an egg, aborted chicken fetuses, I still see eyes physically. They still look like eyes, but in representation, they're not anymore. And that's just the start. Then there's people's behaviors, and they seem very alien to me, too. I don't understand them anymore. They say things, they joke about things, then they look at me and wait for me to laugh. But I'll start staring at their teeth then, and how hungry they look. And then I see things I can only imagine that what a child first sees in the world, when he or she is first born into it, and how terrifying it must all look, seeing the face of her parents smile at them, and the child screams in terror, seeing their teeth, and getting the sense for the first time in their lives of that of being a living creature, in a world where he or she could be eaten, even by one's mom and dad. I can't stop thinking about this stuff. I can't escape from it, and it's starting to terrify the crap out of me. Everything is just so meaningless. My life's a complete shame now. A cowardly shame, a sham. There would have been meaning if I had just enlisted and gone and done what was expected of me. I'm not on the ordained path in life I should be on, no. This is the wrong path. I'm upside down, going in circles, headed in the wrong direction. Oh God. It would have been better if I had done what was expected of me instead of what my father expected of me. Gone, served my country, and even died. I should have died, for that would have been better than this. After 2 weeks straight without sleep, Sam Dorian didn't even know what he was thinking half the time anymore, as he felt like a stranger in his own mind. He had no control of it, nor did he want to, for whatever that was going on was truly horrifying him beyond all measures. Oh God, what is all this? Who are all of these spirits? Are these spirits gods, demons, waging war within me? Are they waging war? No. Now they're not. Now they're talking. Wait, what are they talking about? God, please, what's going on in my mind? And then all of a sudden, a rush of images and sounds and emotions would expand in his head, cracking it open like a chick cracking it out of its egg. The little chick would then run around aimlessly, born headless, then age, then fall down dead. Then another egg would be laid from the stump of its neck, and then the process would repeat over and over and over and over again. Repeat and repeat again. So meaningless. This is not how the world is supposed to be like. No, if this is making any sense. But then a thought occurred to Dorian that truly terrified him to his foundation. Oh God, what if this is the true world I live in? What if this is the true world I live in? And now I'm seeing it how it should be truly for the first time. What if this is the truth of it and everything I knew before was false? Oh God, this is all making me wish I was never born at all. I don't want this to be the true world. I don't want it. Everything terrifies me now. I can't live like this. In this world, I can't. Dorian was in a subway station, and at this point he saw a car coming in, and it was then Dorian almost felt himself jump onto the tracks to end it all. God, no! Don't do it! Don't! But luckily for him, he hadn't. And he was saved by whatever grace that kept him doing what his mind was now demanding. Day passing, night passing, it didn't matter. And then one night of his insomnia, laying there unable to sleep in the dark, Sam Dorian's mind had then suddenly spiked as it lunged him out of bed and out of his house like a possessed person. Dorian was now in a frenzy as he shot out and started wandering the streets. And then the next night again, and then again. After some time, Dorian felt like an apparition almost, roaming the endless nothing, until the morning hours, and then to be looped back again. The world seemed like an alien place to him, a vicious and cruel and unforgiving place, existing between spaces and unaware of its own presence. Like the moon above, it was an inhospitable world where only the soulless could ever survive, with never any peace, never any peace of mind, ever. And as he'd walk before these streets, these dismally lit, meandering streets, he'd also watch faceless strangers passing by that seemed like himself, but only on the surface. He'd watch these fedora people passing by, like abandoned ships passing in the night, all the world full of flying Dutchmen. Who are you people? Where do you come from? What do you want? What do you want from... Oh God, I'm losing my mind here. They're just normal people walking about that I'm imagining are ghosts or something. That's all it is. They're not judging me for being I'm not a coward. Oh God, help me, please let me sleep. And then as Sam's ear began to narrow down onto their whispers, coming out of their twisting and contorting mouths, he'd imagine hearing white noise, their esoteric messages, which Dorian imagined then and being enigmas into his own faith. Enigmas into my own faith? Oh, what type of crazy fucking nonsense is that? My mind is just playing tricks on me. They're not really speaking to me. And if they are, they're just normal folks wondering who this man is staring at them. Wait, what are they saying about me? Do they think I'm mad? I'm not mad. I don't want to be mad. I'm not mad. I just can't sleep. Sam's mind would then fork into hundreds of directions as he desperately tried to decipher their coded babble, obsessing with what their incoherent tales might have to tell about him and to his own inner being. Stop it, Sam. Stop it. They're not saying anything. They're just a bunch of normal night owls walking about. They're not ghosts. They're able to read my... And then all of a sudden, he physically heard one speak to him. We see you, Sam. We see you. And we can hear you too. And one day, you'll understand and become one of us. And Sam then began perpetually screaming and wailing in everlasting terror, hands placed on the sides of his head, squeezing with all his might, as if to crush his own skull, and doing so as he saw one of the fedora people passing by and fade away into oblivion. I don't want to go mad. 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 God help me, please. I don't want to go mad and become one of them. One night, after what felt like 1,000,000 years of endless wandering, Dorian was stopped by some flat-footed walking a beat. Being shot back into reality, Dorian gazed at this new apparition and noticed the man seemed worried about his condition. Son, are you okay? You scared the bejesus out of me there for a second, and I thought I was seeing a ghost, expressed the copper. But then Sam's eyes began to narrow down on his holstered weapon, as he then had the most dreadful urge to reach for it, and do God knows what with it. Sometime later during the day, he had a similar moment with his girl Jane. Coming over to visit him, Jane tried to comfort him by complaining about his crazy brother in prison. But then Sam's eyes began to narrow down on her tits, and he then had a dreadful urge to sink his teeth into them and do God knows what again. This went on for a while, all like this. During those weeks of insomnia, as his life felt like it was in a tailspin, spiraling out of control down into the nothingness of his own being. But then, he came back up again. Those 3.5 weeks came and went, and Dorian had survived it. Survived it. As his mind finally collapsed into peaceful slumber. And after a while, time began to do its magic, slowly restoring all and building up his sanity again. And after it was all over, Sam was again sleeping his usual 14-hour days. And he was simply thankful to God for that. But then, something else happened that took him to the next phase in his life. Returning home after spending another enchanting night, obvious hint of sarcasm all present, out with his girl Jane, Sam returned to see the neighbors all clamoring about in front of his apartment door. They were all calling each other out, trying to get one another to go ahead and knock and see if old man Dorian would answer. They all seemed startled by something and were wondering if old Joe inside was all right. Sam, called out old Mrs. Seldowitz. We heard a shot fired inside your home. We don't know what might have happened. Sam didn't know what to think or feel at this point, and he knew he had to do something. And as he rushed over to the door, he then heard Jane calling out to him, Sam, what if there's an intruder inside still? He might have a gun. Sam hesitated for a second, but then decided to throw precautions to the wind, for if there was an intruder inside, armed with a gun, then his father was definitely in danger. As he unlocked the door, he quickly entered the apartment and turned directly right into the kitchen. Sam wanted to get his old baseball bat that was lying up against the fridge. As he picked it up, he exited the kitchen and began to scour with his eyes to see if anything was off. The living room seemed almost peaceful, like there was never a shot fired, nor did it seem like there could be an intruder hiding somewhere in the premises. The old radio was on, and it was tuned to a mystery thriller called The Whistler. Pop, where are you? Called out Sam. But all Sam heard was the Whistler doing his bit.
I am the Whistler, and I know many things, for I walk by night. I know many strange tales hidden in the hearts of men and women who have stepped into the shadows. Yes, I know the nameless terrors of which they dare not speak.
This was becoming a little too unnerving for Sam, as he began to feel esoteric vibes coming from his own familiar home, looking about and seeing surroundings he no longer felt familiar with. Very similar to how he felt about a lot of things during those 3.5. Don't make me think about that crazy shit again. Not again, ever. Sam then decided to head into his father's room. He stepped up to the door, opened it, and as he tried to enter, he saw his father there, sitting.